Alright, let's first put this into support enforcers only. And then what you're going to do is use paint on supports. And then this is what I use to get the most efficient supports. What you do is you look for the most overhang. So like for example here, there's obviously overhang on the cape down here. This over here, there's a lot of overhang. So what we're going to do is, if you hold Alt and scroll up, the circle goes bigger, and if you hold it and if you hold Alt and go down, it'll become smaller. So let's make it quite big, and then put it on the areas like around the cape where there's a lot of overhang. And since it's a circle, it's gonna go around the object, and it might go onto areas that you don't want it to be, such as this. So what you can do is you can just do Control Z just like anything else to undo, and you can just kind of repaint it a little more carefully to try and get it in a good place. Like let's do this. So as you can see, since the circle is bigger than the actual overhang, it's gonna go over the cape. So you can, if you just hold Shift and left click, you can just delete things. That will just delete stuff, like the blue things. The blue is support. If you hold right click, it'll make a red thing, which will pretty much block supports. Yeah, the blue adds supports, the red block supports. It won't put supports there. Yeah. So let's delete this and add some here. As you can see, there's heavy overhangs on this model. So let's just put it like this. I think that's pretty good. You can do it however you like. You can always change the circle diameter to your liking. And then with practice, you can tell which overhangs actually need support and which don't. Stuff like this, you'll need supports because it's in the air. But stuff like, let me see, stuff like angled stuff might not need it. Depending on the angle, obviously, and how it's printing. So like all of this will need support. So let's put support here. So that's that. This will need support. And I mean, I guess I'm just gonna put support all throughout here too to get it fully encased. Let's put support here. So pretty much what you're doing is you're finding all the overhangs, and with support enforcers only on, you get all the supports done. This is better. This, in my opinion, this is better than putting supports everywhere, because everywhere just takes a lot of time. It's less time in the software, but a lot of time printing and post-processing, which isn't really ideal. You want to spend more time in software and less time printing and post-processing, because it just saves time, and plus it could be safer. If you think about it, you're taking away all the support in the model. It could fling upwards, and you never know. But yeah, I assume I follow the rule that more time in software, less time post-processing. So let's find more overhangs. So like that. Some support we'll get here. Now, if your model is a lot of air, you can put it on support on build plate only. So I'll put supports only touching the build plate. It does a good job at what I'm doing right now, but sometimes if your model, let's say, has supports that you need to put supports, but it doesn't touch the build plate, you're gonna have to put supports there with support enforcers and the paint on supports, so the build plate wouldn't work. But sometimes you can do it with only build plate and just touch up with paint, and that works too. I do that too sometimes, and it works. Let's just do that. I'll show you what I mean with the build plate right now. Let's see how this turns out. I rarely ever use everywhere because it's a waste of time. You don't really need it. It might be easy for beginners to use to get objects printed within the first weeks, But after that, you want to learn how to use paint on supports in PrusaSlicer to get the best, most efficient prints, in my opinion. Everywhere works, sometimes, not all the times, because everywhere is going to add too much supports. Okay, so let's slice this and see what it's saying. Right now I have the snug effect on in the supports, which I'll show you what that means right now. So let's see, this is, as you can see, all the overhangs are covered. You got this part, the cape, this thing, everything else. Okay, so let's go into settings and I'll show you what the snug is. So keep an eye on this right here. So let's go change it, go to support. So if you go to print settings, support material, and then options for support material and raft, and you go to style, bring that to grid, and reslice it, it's gonna change the way it places the support, or the how much area it covers, I should say. So as you can see, this is the pre-G code. It covers more area and it sort of wraps around the model. It wraps around everything and it covers it, while the snug just makes it so it lines up with the model, and it's just a straight line sort of. The grid just wraps around everything, but the snug just saves more time and it's easier to take off. That's one thing. The snug is easier to take off, while the grid is a little harder to take off since it's covering more area. So let's go back to snug, because I like snug.